All right. Hello, everybody, and welcome to today's edition of Forex Daily Dimes. I am your host, Josh Lilquist, and once again, we're going to get into the Forex market. We're actually going to dive into the equities market today as well. We had the Fed funds rate yesterday, which brought a little volatility, but brought the market down a little bit. So we're going to just kind of check that out real quick. We'll do that, and then we're going to get into some news of some different sites that may be interesting for some people that, if they're interested in learning more about, I guess, some of the fundamentals on the forex market. So before we get into that, as we know, there is risk in trading. You can and probably will lose money at one point in the financial markets. Past performance is not indicative to future results. Anything that we go through here today basically is for entertainment purposes only. If you have any questions, definitely type them in the chat. Whether you're live or if you are online, type those in. But also any comments on anything you'd like to hear next on some upcoming shows, definitely don't be bashful in doing that. All right, so let's dive right into it. So let's start out with the S&P 500, the cash market. So yesterday we had the Fed funds rate yesterday afternoon Central Time, and brought it down. That's the weekly chart. Let's go down to the daily chart. Actually, let's look at a 4-hour. That was right around noon time or 1 o'clock time yesterday. And you can see kind of how the market was starting to climb back up again on that high from the 8th and 9th. But after that funds rate, whatever Powell said brought it straight down. So as we know, this is just fundamental information. So we don't want to trade off the news because it's already happened. So a lot of times, by the time you get in, like today, it's already dropped. So the move has already happened. So always be sure to use proper risk management in anything you do in the financial markets, but especially when there's big news announcements that are going on. Okay, so moving on. So the S&P 500 today opened up pretty low. We dropped down there to, we're sitting at, sorry about that. We're sitting at the 33.43 mark right now. So it really today hasn't done a whole lot. Opened up low, has some volatility right away in the morning, and we're still kind of sitting there on this 4-hour candle. Let's check out the NASDAQ. NASDAQ is pretty much the same picture. You have the Dow, which is pretty much the same picture as well. The Dow is up just a little bit less than the other markets are. So let's take a peek at some Bitcoin for those of you that like the cryptocurrencies. Bitcoin has been in a steady uptrend. Let's go to a daily chart for since March. All right, we bottomed out here in March after this rally here. It came back down, bottomed out at the 39.42 mark. Pretty darn low. So if you got in at that point, congratulations, and you had a pretty good gain there. Bitcoin is sitting just above 10,000. It's 10,000 bucks a Bitcoin right now. Another crypto that I do like is Ethereum, and pretty much the same picture since March. Let's see, March lows. So now it's up about 333%. So not a bad gain from March till now. So obviously the big picture is still much lower than the all-time highs. So we'll see what happens here with the cryptos as the banks start adopting them. Hopefully the Fed doesn't come out. I mean, if they do, I guess it doesn't matter. But if they come out with a Fed coin, that's pretty much going to be the same as fiat currency anyway. So it doesn't really matter if they do that. They're going to still control that. These cryptocurrencies are not government regulated. There's an area that I like to get into. It's the esports arena. And if you look at, if you know what esports are, it's basically like you have your different, I guess you have Call of Duty League, you have, there's different sports games on Xbox or PlayStation. So these things have really been skyrocketing since since inception here in 2018. But opened up originally in the IPO at $30. just like most IPOs, dropped right away. But now it's sitting at just under $60 per share. This is the ETF for it's an esports ETF, Vanek Vectors ETF Trust Video Gaming. Right. There's another one that I like to keep an eye on. It's Turtle Beach Corporation, and this one here is kind of the same picture, but it actually looks kind of like Bitcoin. You had a parabolic move, and as we know, after every parabolic move, we see a big drop, but bottomed out here in March. So it's a good buying opportunity for those that knew how to get into that. And from the March lows, let's do a little measuring tool on that. We are up about 311%. So some good areas just to take a peek at and check them out, see what they are. Obviously, this is much off the all-time highs as well, which is way back here from 2013. So is this a dying stock? Who knows? Is it an opportunity? Who knows? As long as you have a proper rules-based strategy to get in your positions and get out with a proper risk, without any risk, there's no reward. So learn the skill of trading and investing, as far as where to get in, but also where to get out and take your profits. All right. So moving on, let's get back into our currency market. As we always do on the Forex Daily Dimes, and I'll just kind of recap what we do here. The currency market, with the longer term trends right now, hasn't been moving a lot. There's a lot of wait and see mode. So today what I'm going to do is I'm just going to dissect kind of how we trade the dimes, and it's trading the dimes, which is every 10 cents in the currency market. And for every 10 cents, there is 1,000 pips, right? So trade that. We're trading that off a weekly chart. And when you have that, you have your weekly chart to gain your bias. So if you're looking at a chart, let's take the euro dollar for instance. And right now we're sitting in no man's land. We call it half court. That's what we call the daily dimes. A lot of basketball references. But we're sitting here at the $1.20 area, $1.20, right? Now we're looking to get a close above or below these hezzy lines, which is 250 pips from these major areas. It's kind of a psychological area, but the institutions and banks, kind of what we're shooting for is they're fighting here. The buyers and sellers are fighting here. Once the buyers win above this, you get a weekly close above this this hezzy band, 250 pips up above the whole number, or 250 pips below the whole number, which gains your bias. From there, drop down to a 4-hour chart. That's your execution. So if you get a close above, let's say a close below this $1.1750, which would be this here on a weekly chart, we're going to look to short once we get below here. Stop loss there. Target here. So you have 75 pip risk, 175 pip reward. So small risk, high reward. And if you continually do that consistently, you just let the odds work in your favor. It's not going to work every time. You're probably going to have more losers than winners. But if you have more profit per winner, less loss per loser, that's where you have the proper risk management. Okay, and you can do this with any pair. Here's actually here I believe we have a trade on right now, the Australian dollar. Yeah, so Australian dollar is basically sitting in the zone right now. So on a weekly chart, we had a close above the 72.50, right? Which we get our bias. Drop it down to a 4-hour chart. Okay. Close above here. Enter on the 73.25. So we got a close above there. Entered there. So you can either, if you want to be real aggressive, if you get a close right there and you want to get into the trade right away, you can. You have a little bit more risk. I like to wait until we get a pullback to our zone. And so right now we're sitting in the zone. So entry there. Looking to take it from here up to here. Is it going to happen? We don't know, but as long as you have your stop loss, which would be down at 72.50, and your target at 75, let it work for you. And that's pretty much all we got going on. I know we got a trade waiting to happen here in the New Zealand CAD. We have our short bias right here. We got to close below here. So we're waiting for price to pull back or pull up here to the 89.25 area and enter there to short it to bring it down to here. So that's pretty much all we got going on here today. There's a lot of wait and see mode. Last couple of weeks we had a lot of trades going on and a lot of trades close out, which is good. So not a whole lot to talk about today. Next week we have a special guest. I have Jeff Manson coming on the show, and we're going to dissect Fibonacci. He's a big advocate for the Fibonacci's, the fibs. So there's no fibbing in that session. So we're going to talk about fibs, Fibonacci, and the futures market. He's going to talk some about the Forex market, the daily dimes, but also going to get into some options because we have a lot of volatility in the options market right now, or I should say the stock market, which is what you want in the options market, so which creates that movement. So we're going to talk about all the different asset classes with Jeff next week. I believe that'll be Monday or Tuesday. We'll do that show live as well. So I want to thank you for coming on the show here today. If you'd like to give it a thumbs up, make sure to subscribe to the show here. Also, I have a podcast on Apple Podcasts, iHeartRadio, and Spotify called the Retire Young Podcast. Definitely check that out if you'd like to hear more about the markets, just general information purposes there. So subscribe, give a like, give a thumbs up. If you don't like it, give a thumbs down. Put any comments in there if you liked anything or anything you want to touch next. Or if you have a special guest that you want me to try to get on the show, we'll definitely try to get them on the show and talk more about the financial markets. But until then,